Hi everyone, attorney Michael Truman here with Munitions Law Group. That's Munitions Law Group. Just wanted to give an update on the federal restoration process, and this is kind of to piggyback on my partner Derek's video that he put out on Thursday. So just to recap, the big news on Wednesday was that the Department of Justice, Attorney General Pam Bondi, announced that they were going to be relaunching the federal restoration process. The federal restoration process has existed for many years, written into federal law, 18 U.S.C. 925C. However, since 1992, it had been defunded. So if you submitted an application for a federal restoration, they would just return it back to you and say, we can't look at this. So again, Wednesday, they announced that they were going to be relaunching this process. Thursday, they took their first concrete steps towards this goal. And what they did is they published a federal rule which did two things. Is number one, it withdrew the Attorney General's delegation of authority to ATF to hear these cases. So the way that it worked when the process was open prior to 1992 was the actual law said that you would apply to the Attorney General, but the Attorney General had delegated that authority to ATF. And then when they withdrew funding for it, they took that funding, they prohibited ATF from hearing the applications. So now Pam Bondi has published a rule that says that they are withdrawing ATF's authority to hear the restoration applications, meaning that with authority goes back to the Department of Justice and the Attorney General herself. Number two is they actually repealed the regulation that governed the mechanics of the application. So for example, the application, the rule for the application said that you had to send 3 copies of the application to the director. They withdrew that entire regulation. And basically what they said in the new rule that they published is they said that they are going to eventually replace that regulation with new mechanics and logistics for how the federal restoration process is actually going to work. My guess is that this is going to be something that will be submitted online rather than in paper. Obviously, there's no reason anymore to have to submit things in 3 paper copies that would be submitted to different departments. All of those regulations are outdated, so it made sense that they would want to withdraw that regulation and those requirements, and that they're going to republish now. They're going to basically have all new requirements and logistics for how this is actually going to work. And just to touch on how major this is going to be able to help. Number one is anyone with a federal felony. Ever since the restoration process was defunded in 1992, people with federal felonies were essentially left just to pardons. And those are presidential pardons, which are obviously incredibly rare. We actually had one client that I handled his case, and he got a pardon at the very end of the Biden administration. But obviously pardons were incredibly rare. They would take 5 to 10 years to even get an answer on. So people with federal felony convictions, this is going to be huge for. It's also going to be able to help people with misdemeanor domestic violence convictions. Many times those people would have no other realistic restoration process. It's going to help people with who have lost their rights due to mental health issues. So for example, I have a client that 30 years ago, he was committed to a mental health institution for 5 days. He was going through a stressful divorce. And at least here in Ohio does not have a restoration process that works for mental health. And there are around 20 states that are in that situation. So no matter how long ago the mental health issue was, there was no real way to get their rights back. This is going to help those people as well. So it's going to be a huge change to firearm laws. And it really is a major thing that the Attorney General is doing in the interest of advancing firearm rights in this country. So obviously we're keeping a close eye on this. As soon as there's any more developments, we will absolutely chime in and put out a video to let everyone know. So stay tuned.